from both sides of the planet. You're listening to the Redskins Capital Connection. Now here's your hosts, Chad and Mark.
Hello Redskins fans, and thank you for tuning in for another edition of the Redskins Capital Connection podcast. As always, my name is Chad, I'm your host. Coming at you from Richmond, Virginia is my co-host Mark. Mark, how are you doing this morning, sir?
You know, I'm doing fantastic given the fact that I was up until, 3 in the morning, something. I'm exaggerating on that. Watching the Monday night game last night as Andrew Luck failed to lead the Indianapolis Colts back against the Carolina Panthers. But I'm here and I'm ready to talk Redskins football because that's what we do here on the Redskins Capital Connection.
And are you feeling refreshed? Because the Redskins had a bye last week, and we took a bye week as well. We didn't have a podcast last week, so there's a little bit to catch up there. Obviously, the Buccaneers game was a pretty interesting game for the Redskins. But most importantly, Mark, are you feeling refreshed?
Well, you know, Chad, halfway through the season is a good time for the bye to come. You know, guys like us, at this level, our vocal cords are starting to feel it in the middle of the season. So taking that week off is good to get us refreshed and ready for the second half of the season. And I think we should focus on what's important in the second half of today's podcast. We will be having Chris Wesseling on a little bit later today from NFL.com and the NFL Network, I believe. We'll have him on later. But let's focus on the main event of today's podcast. For the first time all year, Mark Phillips, your co-host from Richmond, Virginia, gets to do the 3-2-1 after a Redskin victory.
The game votes after a win. This is new territory for you. So yeah, towards the end of the show, you'll hear that. You'll hear the game MVP votes from the Bucs game. We also preview this week's game against the New England Patriots, a very tough matchup, easily the toughest game on the Redskins schedule for 2015. And we're also going to talk a little bit, and only a little bit, about today, because we're recording on Tuesday, November 3rd, today's trade deadline, because today is the last day that trades can be processed in the 2015 season. So yeah, that's what is on the show today. As Mark mentioned, we do have Chris Wesseling from the Around the NFL podcast from NFL.com. You are right, he does appear on NFL Network from time to time as well. He joins us. Well, he joins me. He joined me over the weekend. Unfortunately, Mark couldn't join us, so it's just a one-on-one chat between me and Chris. So we're going to tee that up in a minute or two. But before we get to that, I just also want to do a little bit of housekeeping with the podcast. So this episode is going to be the first one that we also upload on YouTube. We're just trying that out. There was a couple of people on Twitter who said that they wouldn't mind getting it that way. So we'll do that and we'll take a look at how that works. So if you are listening to this on YouTube, let us know, or however you're listening to this. If there's a way that you want to listen to it that you can't at the moment, let us know. We want to make this podcast as accessible as we possibly can for everyone out there. And, we thank everyone who tunes in every episode.
Absolutely. And you know what? Of course, nothing says YouTube like an audio chat put up there. So,
right.
We will be out there, and who knows, at some point, maybe we'll go next gen and we'll go video. But for right now, hey, listen, I think as many avenues as you can get out there. And certainly, I got people talking to me a fair amount about the RedskinsCapitalConnection.com podcast. So I know that it's generating some buzz out there, and I'm just excited to be a part of it. But you know what I'm even more excited about? The fact that the Redskins got a win in the biggest comeback in their franchise history a week ago Sunday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of people said, oh, it's just the Bucs. They're not a very good team. The Bucs went out this week and beat the Falcons in Atlanta. So the Bucs are a team that's playing hard right now, and I agree they're not a great team. But the bottom line is, if it was so easy to come back 24 points against anybody, and let's face it, the Redskins have been down 24 points a lot in recent years, the Redskins would have done it before. All right,
yep.
So coming back from 24 down is an accomplishment. I don't care who you're doing it against. All right, and the Bucs are not among the dregs of the league. They're not a good team, but they're not among the dregs of the league. And to come back from 24 points down, to have so many things work. I mean, an effective onside kick, and Wes Hopkins now. It's a small sample size, but all of the onside kicks he has done for this team have been fantastic. Really, we should have come up with all of them. One of them, we had a guy right there, and in the Jets game, it probably wouldn't have mattered even if we'd recovered it. But a couple of fantastic onside kicks from this guy. Just another thing to love about Wes Hopkins, and it makes you wonder how anyone has beaten this guy out, because I'm looking, Chad, and there's not a weakness in his game.
You keep calling him Wes Hopkins. His name's Dustin, right?
Dustin Hopkins. Why do I do keep doing that, and it's because there's a player by that name. But anyhow, from many years ago. So Dustin Hopkins, excuse me. I'll try to remember that and not confuse him with the former Eagles safety.
If we ever get him on the show, I'll make sure that we brush you up on his name before he has a chat with us. But yeah, Jay Gruden referred to his onside kicks as magic balls, and that's just it brings up a lot of imagery, but it's accurate because, as you said, they've all been gettable, and that Buccaneers onside kick that was recovered was the first onside kick recovered in the NFL in 2015. Kickers around the NFL had been 0 for 24 before that one was recovered on onside kick attempts. So, we've got ourselves a nice kicker weapon there, Redskins fans.
Right. Fantastic. And he will not be part of the 3-2-1 this week because we've got plenty of other candidates, but he has absolutely been one of the more pleasant finds by the Redskins this year. And even though we've watched some former Redskin kickers go on to do some nice things this year, Graham Gano last night being an example of one kicking a game-winning field goal in the Monday night game. But the bottom line is, I would not trade any of the former Redskin kickers out there right now for the guy we've got.
No, neither would I. But you know what? Let's talk about the Bucs game a bit more later. For now, let's play my chat with Chris Wesseling. So this one goes for about 10 to 15 minutes. So we'll tee that up now, and then we'll come back afterwards, and we'll break that down, and also talk about the Bucs game a bit more, talk about the Pats game, and other stuff. So here's my chat with Chris Wesseling. So here on the Redskins Capital Connection podcast this season, we've had Redskins players, we've had superb writers, we've had beat reporters, we've had Redskins TV and radio hosts. But here's the thing, they've all been reporting from the inside. So here now during the bye week, it's time to get an outside perspective, and who better to bring back onto the Redskins Capital Connection podcast than Mr. Chris Wesseling himself from NFL Media and the Around the League podcast. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great, Chad. Thanks for having me.
No, always good to have you on, and I know you've got a bit of an affinity for Aussies. You've been on a couple of Australian NFL podcasts in the past year, I understand.
I do. What's not to like about Aussies? I think international fans tend to be more appreciative because a lot of them are still picking up nuances of the game, so they seem to be a lot more appreciative.
Yeah, well, I mean, and plus, you're a man who enjoys the finer things in life, and Australians can get right behind that as well.
Exactly.
So let's start by me teeing up a nice big open-ended question to you. From the outside looking in, how do you feel about this Redskins team at the moment? Where are they at?
They seem to me like a 7-9, 8-8 type of team. I think early on you thought the running game was going to be what they could hang their hat on, and lately that's just been not the case. And then with so many injuries, they haven't really been playing well, but I don't quite see them as a playoff team, but in the NFC East, any team could win there.
Yeah, well, I mean, this absolutely is a team crawled by injuries. ESPN had a piece last week saying that the Redskins were the second most injury-affected team in the NFL in 2015 based on games lost to projected starters. When you consider that the Redskins have had multiple games without, starting corners, without Jordan Reed, without Deshaun Jackson, without starting offensive linemen, etc., how much do you think the injuries have actually affected the Redskins? Would their record at this point be any different if they were fully healthy, do you think?
Oh, they might have another win, I guess, but I think they're an average team, and I think the hardest part is just judging Kirk Cousins as a quarterback without Deshaun Jackson and without, for a game or two, Jordan Reed, without Trent Williams for a game or two. So it's been hard to get a read on him. I know a lot of people around the country are down on his prospects. I've been trying to keep an open mind, and I want to see what he does once he gets everyone healthy.
Well, I mean, credit where it's due. You called the RG3 Cousins switch early, like way before anyone else, and you copped a lot of heat on Twitter from it. I think I actually, in a constructive way said I disagree. But, I mean, is there a little sense of, for lack of a better word, vindication there for you when, you get a call right like that so early?
Oh, yeah, there always is when you get a call right. And to me, that's one of the favorite parts of the job. I reject the notion that we have to wait, I don't know, a month or two before we say Todd Gurley is one of the best running backs in the NFL. I think when you see something and it's obvious, you should say it. And that's what I did with Kirk Cousins, just the fact that RG3 so clearly needs to be, broken down and built back up and learn how to play quarterback again.
Well, I mean, yeah, and as I said, you called it very early, so, you deserve nothing but kudos for that. But talking about breaking him down and stuff segues into the coaching stuff. Jay Gruden in his second year brought on Matt Kavanagh at quarterback coach. I saw them firsthand in training camp, but they were working on RG3 a lot. Do you think, RG3's lack of development at this point can be pinned more on the coaching stuff or more on RG3 himself?
I think it's on RG3 himself, and I'm not inside that building, so I don't know what's going on, but just allusions other analysts around the country have made to the fact that he's too stubborn for his own good, that he's worried more about building up his body instead of learning how to play quarterback and studying film and working off the chalkboard. And to me, there's always the fact that he's so worried about his brand. I don't know if football is always the number one thing on his mind, but so to me, I think he does have to capitulate the coaching, and I don't know if we've seen that yet.
Well, I mean, we're seeing Kirk Cousins starting to, grow his brand a little bit as well on the back of the "You like that?" Viral video. Let me ask you, Chris, do you like that?
I like the victory. I like how well he played in that game. So yeah, I like that.
Alrighty. So, I mean, the Scott McLuhan effect seems to be paying pretty early dividends for the Redskins with, a bunch of the 2015 rookies having big impacts already, although Matt Jones has fallen off a little bit since his hot start. But, Jamison Crowder is second only to Amari Cooper in receptions among rookies. Brandon Scherf's looking like a quality prospect on the offensive line. That's, the general thought process from inside Redskins Park. What's your thought process looking from the outside in on the 2015 rookies?
Well, I think Scott McLuhan is a guy who's respected around the league for his talent evaluation. So it's not surprising to me that they're playing better on the defensive line and on the offensive line where he devoted his resources. So, and then the rookie class, I think Preston Smith has flashed at times. He's impressed me. And Jamison Crowder, when I first saw him, thought he was too. He just didn't have enough size. He was too easy to tackle. But he's made some catches in traffic that I wouldn't have expected. So. Yeah, I've been pretty impressed with the rookie class.
It was funny. You mentioned Jamison Crowder. I had a good laugh with Mike Jones of the Washington Post about this at training camp because the first time I met Jamison Crowder and was interviewing him, face to face, for reference, Chris, I'm 6 foot tall and 230 pounds. He was tiny next to me, and I'm not an NFL-sized player, so it's amazing to me that he can take these hits crossing the middle and bounce straight back up. It's a testament to his toughness.
Yeah, he's a different player than I thought. I just didn't know if he was elusive enough to be going down that easily on arm tackles, but he's been plenty elusive the last few games and seems like a tough kid.
Now, let's look ahead this week because the Redskins have arguably the toughest game of their 2015 schedule going up to New England, facing the Patriots off a 10-day rest. Tom Brady looks unstoppable at the moment. There was a thing on CSN in Washington yesterday that if the Redskins and Patriots played this game 100 times, the Redskins would probably lose 100 times. Would you agree with that, or would you give the Redskins a 1 in 100 chance at the very least? What needs to go right for the Redskins to win this game? Because it looks bleak going into it.
Well, yeah, I think you'd need maybe a team-wide virus to take out Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. Barring an injury to Brady, yeah, I would put that at 100 out of 100. The football bounces awkwardly sometimes, so maybe it's 99-1, but I'd side toward 100.
Now, I mean, if the Redskins are going to be at least competitive in this game and not get blown out by 50 points, what do they need to do? I mean, is it because, from, sitting on the couch and watching, it's easy to say, oh, you got to contain Gronkowski, oh, you got to make Brady throw the ball quick, but, teams do that and they still boat race them. So, what can be done?
I don't think there's anything. I know it's just, I don't think there's anything that can be done. I think, you just have to go up there and get your whooping.
All right, so
they're that much. I guess you could try to lengthen the game by, trying to put together 10-minute drives and keeping the ball out of Tom Brady's hands. But again, easier said than done than a Patriots defense that everyone is kind of underlooking still. They're really good on defense, just like their offense.
Well, I mean, more than anyone because your block list on Twitter is full of them. Passionate fans put rationality out of they throw it out the window when they look at this. So I know there are at least some Redskins fans out there who think that the Redskins are a chance of snagging a huge upset. So,
I'm sure there are.
Without going that far, and I hate the term moral victory, but for the Redskins to come out of New England at least not having their pants pulled down, how close do they need to keep it, or what do they need to do you think?
I would say even against ignoring the final scoreboard, because you can always get a late score or a fluke couple of plays late in the game that make it look closer. Now, you just have to hang with them throughout the game and not like you said, get boat raced.
Alrighty. So, I mean,
I'd
assuming...
say if Tom Brady plays the whole game and you don't see Jimmy Garoppolo, it's a good sign for the Redskins if they stayed close enough.
I like that. I'm going to use that. That's excellent. So it's, assuming that the Redskins come out of Foxborough with a loss, and apologies, diehard fans listening, I'm not putting that in the loss column until it's done, but assuming that they come out of the Foxborough with a loss, you've been pretty famously reticent to fork the Redskins on the ATL podcast yet. Would, going 3-5 after New England, that wouldn't, change that yet, would it? With this division being so, battling the AFC South for being the worst division in football at the moment, right?
Yeah, that's hard to say ahead of time because it sort of depends on what the other teams do too. If the Giants pick up a win and they move 2 games ahead of the Redskins, I might be more willing to just fork the Redskins.
Well, I mean, I know you've got a little wager going with Hank from the UK about him never being able to use a fork again if the Redskins make the playoffs. How much would that, be enjoyable to watch him eating salads with a spoon?
I forgot about that. I think he has invoked the rule that he's allowed to use a fork, so that might save him some grief, but it's still quite a bold statement by him.
That's a cop-out. You can't let that one fly.
Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens if they make the playoffs.
Alrighty, let's move on real quickly to Matt Jones and Alfred Morris, because you did touch on the fact that after a good start to the season, the run game has stagnated, and Coach Gruden, in his last press conference before the bye week, did say that his priority throughout the bye was fixing the run game, making sure we can get that going again. Now, for all the perceived Alfred Morris struggles and Matt Jones flashes of brilliance, Alfred Morris still leads this team this year in rushing. What do you see coming out of the bye? Do you think it's going to be in any way rejuvenated? What are you seeing about the Redskins' run game?
I think I'm in a wait-and-see situation. I can't say it'll be rejuvenated because I don't know how much of it is the injuries on the offensive line or the scheme, or I don't know exactly what's going on there. I think Alfred Morris has looked sluggish. I thought it was great in the season opener, and since then, I've been wondering where his burst is. I feel like Matt Jones is a better back, but I also, it seems like they're not willing to abandon the sort of running back by committee approach.
Well, I mean, I have to agree with you, but I'm really hoping that we see, more of that week 1 and 2 action and less of the following, because too many runs have been stuffed for no gain in the past couple of weeks, and it's really hurt the Redskins. And it's a credit to Kirk Cousins that he's been able to win throwing the ball 30, 40 times a game, because that was not the game plan for the Redskins going into this year at all. Yeah,
I think back to the statement by Mike Shanahan over the summer that Kirk Cousins is a franchise quarterback if you give him a running game. And, like you said, the first couple of games that was there, but it hasn't been since.
Alrighty. So, last question, Chris. If the Redskins capitulate at the end of this season, we're on 3-4 at the moment. If they finish with 4 wins or 5 wins, do you think either Kirk Cousins and Jay Gruden are here next year, or do you think it's a total back to the drawing board rebuild for the Redskins?
In that scenario, if they only go 4-12 or 5-11, I think you'll see both of it gone. In that scenario, Kirk Cousins hasn't shown you enough to believe that he's going to be a free agent. He's going to want big money if he can get it. I don't see what the Redskins would have to gain by bringing him back under a different coach.
So by the flip side, if the Redskins do go, as you said, 7-9 or even 8-8, you think they're both back next year?
I think Jay Gruden might have to make the playoffs. I don't know if he's back on a 7-9 team. And at that point, we have to see what the new coach thinks of Kirk Cousins.
Interesting. Well, Chris, you always provide a fascinating insight to the Redskins, as I said, from that outside perspective, because, so often the guys we get on the podcast are, inside the building, and you're at risk of a bit of a groupthink mentality, but it's always good to get an outside perspective. We love having you on. Thank you so much for making the time. As always, if you ever come down to Australia for a game, if they bring one down here, the beers are on us. And we'll show you a little bit of that, Tybee Island love down under.
That sounds excellent. Thank you.
No worries, Chris. You have a good day.
All right, you too.
And there you have it, Chris Wesseling. Great interview. Glad, we're getting better and better guests on the Redskins Capital Connection.com podcast. For the most part, we've been bringing you local guys the whole time and getting great local perspective. So it's nice to sort of get an outsider point of view. I agree with the majority of what he said, and you and I discussed, earlier, not during the podcast. I don't think I agree that Jay Gruden has to make the playoffs to stay, but I don't think 5-11 or 6-10 is going to get it done. I do think there's some pressure on to win some games. But if the Redskins are 7-9, 8-8, that's a significant improvement over the last couple of years. And I think he stays. But otherwise, I think it was, really strong perspective. Even though Redskin fans who, midweek get overly optimistic about the upcoming game, I agree with him on the Patriots game. I see very little possibility that the Redskins win this game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Patriots game is a great example of why I think the Redskins will keep Jay Gruden if they finish 7-9 or 8-8. Because you look at our run home, our schedule, and it is tough. We've still got 4 NFC East games. We've got games against the Patriots, obviously. We've got the Saints. We go to Carolina. We've got the Bears in Chicago in December, and then we've got the Buffalo Bills in the middle of December in DC as well. There's not what I would call an easy game on the Redskins schedule for the remainder of the year. And now, we're currently 3-4. If we win another 3 games, another 4 games, another 5 games, that's a pretty good season considering the strength of schedule there. So, whilst I do think that, it's always awkward when a new GM doesn't have his coach in place, if the Redskins do win, that amount of games, I think Gruden will be here next year.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of Redskin fans will not like to hear that because I know he's not popular among the fan base right now. He's just not. I understand that, although you certainly have to give him credit for this past week's game. I thought that, the game plan was actually pretty solid, going in. I think the defense kind of let us down early in the game. And people are killing the defense, and deservedly so. But after those first 3 drives, after Tampa's first 3 drives of the game, at which point it was 17-0, defense only gave up 2 field goals the rest of the way. No, there's a couple of long drives, and there were some times would have been nice to get the stop at 27-24 as opposed to have them drive all the way down and get first and goal before we stiffened up. But the bottom line is, 3 drives from the beginning of the game, and after that, I thought the Redskin defense was pretty solid. But Kirk Cousins was the story this week, in my opinion. Fantastic game, and I think actually Kirk Cousins playing well this week highlights a serious issue with the fan base in general, and that some people are so delusional and so over the top in their dislike of Kirk Cousins. I won't use hatred because hatred's a very strong word. In their dislike of Kirk Cousins, that they cannot see reasonably what this guy is. And I understand in my opinion, he's not the future of this team. And you're talking to a guy who preferred RG3 at the start of the year based on RG3's upside. But right now, Kirk Cousins, if you're talking about at this moment, I think based on play this year, you have to say Kirk Cousins was the better choice for this year. And I've had some discussions with people who say, no, that's the only good game he's played all year. That's false. He played very well in the Philadelphia game. There were 5 drives of 9 plays or longer. The running game was non-existent in that game, and the defense let him down. So I just think that there's a serious, almost delusion on both sides of the fan base of the Kirk Cousins debate. He's not the quarterback of the future, but he's not terrible either. And so I just, based on the Twitter conversations I've had recently, I'm stunned at people's viewpoints on this issue.
Yeah, look, it's something we've had going all season, but I try to just ignore it these days because, at the same time, there's people who, on the other end of the spectrum who are so, I guess, anti-RG3, the elephant in the room for this conversation, that they call Kirk Cousins, an elite quarterback, and the truth is somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But we digress. He played a good game. His 4th quarter especially was excellent against the Bucs. He did what he had to do. Is he going to be able to do that sort of stuff every game? No, but we know that. At this point of his career, Kirk Cousins, we know what he is, and he's going to be good enough to win some games, and he's going to have some games where he, has some mistakes that do lose the Redskins some games. And you're right, he's probably not the future. He's not going to be the quarterback in 3 or 4 years' time for this team. So we just got to ride it out.
Right. And he probably will be the quarterback next year. I'm assuming they signed some kind of extension because, I don't see a long-term solution out there at the moment, including in the draft. But I don't want to focus the entire podcast on that. We've got a big game coming up this week, Chad. And you know what? As a Redskin fan, I am actually really looking forward to this week in this game because We have nothing to lose this week. Nothing to lose. If the Redskins go to New England and get beat 38-3, that's not going to surprise, or at least from a national perspective. The Redskin fans will, of course, be disappointed and people will be getting killed, and understandably so. But this is literally a case where we have got nothing to lose. And if the Redskins go in and shock the world, fantastic. But you can't, as a Redskin fan, be going into this week with any expectation of winning this game.
No, I wouldn't think that many rational Redskins fans would think that the Redskins will win this game. I'm sure some will think that they can. But, I think you're right. There's that nothing to lose mentality. The only thing that can backfire for the Redskins is if we go in and have our pants absolutely pulled down. And I'm not talking 38-3 like you said. I'm talking, 55-zip. Something like that is bad. You can't have that. No matter how good the Patriots are, at the end of the day, the Redskins are still a professional football team, and you have to play with some sort of modicum of professionalism. So
Right.
If the Redskins can go into this in this game at Foxborough, score a couple of touchdowns, hold on to the ball for a while, and keep the ball out of Tom Brady's hand, then I think the Redskins can maybe even cover the spread, which I think is something like 14 points for New England. That in itself is going to be, I hate this term, and I said I hate it with Chris Wesseling as well. I hate the term moral victory, but that's going to be something that the Redskins can, feel good about, I guess.
Right. Well, and the Redskins won't be able to count on from the Patriots, and I agree with what you're saying right there. The Redskins won't be able to count on getting multiple turnovers from the Patriots. They won't be able to count on 16, 17 penalties with multiple personal foul penalties like they got against them. They're not going to be able to count on that. So and I want to I guess adjust what I said in my previous comment. There is one way that this could be a disappointing loss, and that's if the Redskins were to somehow take a significant lead, 14 to 21 points, and we've got a multiple score lead going into the fourth quarter, and the Patriots come back and win the game, because at that point you start to believe you can win the game, and then it gets taken away from you. So I will revise to say, if the Redskins surprise us and take a multiple score lead going late into that game and blow it, that would be a disappointment. But otherwise, it's really a nothing to lose. And I do think the Redskins have some matchup advantages to exploit in this game, but the problem is Tom Brady plays for their team, not for our team, and in most games that's going to make the difference.
Yeah, I mean, and they have a couple of other weapons. Dion Lewis looks insanely good. Gronkowski is, the best tight end that we've seen in a long, long time, since Shannon Sharp, I'm guessing. So yeah, they have some weapons that are going to be tough to stop. Now, our defensive line, they can cause some damage in terms of shutting down the run. They haven't been able to do it the past few weeks, but I'm hoping that, Joe Barry and the defensive coordinating team will have made some adjustments during the bye week and won't be, doing the kind of weird things that he's had the edge rushers doing, where they're, stepping inside and just not setting the edge. Go back to basics, set the edge, and that'll contain the run game a bit better than we've seen in the past couple of weeks, when, we've had guys like Doug Martin and Chris Ivory, and Devonta Freeman put up huge numbers against us. If that happens, then you can concentrate on having someone like Deshaun Goldson or Trenton Robinson or Kaishawn Jarrett, or one of these guys pretty much shadowing Gronkowski wherever he goes. Double team him if you want, but I think we're going to be playing a cover 3 zone defense for a lot of the day. But I don't want to see, Keenan Robinson and Perry Riley covering Gronkowski in the seams. I want to see safeties, because we've seen what happens when Perry Riley is in coverage, and it's never pretty.
Right. Well, the Redskins don't have anyone that can match up with Gronkowski, and that's not to put the Redskins down. No one does. Okay, I'm not even sure Gronkowski's a man. I think they feed him directly from the coach's hands on the sidelines. I mean, I think the guy is part animal. So, and the Redskins have played Gronkowski before. This won't be the first time. The first time was actually Kerrigan's rookie year, and Kerrigan actually, Gronkowski caught a pass on Kerrigan, and he just ran through Kerrigan's arms like Kerrigan was not even there. And, this is, It's not like Ryan Kerrigan was a bad player as a rookie. Ryan Kerrigan was a really good NFL player as a rookie, and Gronkowski just ran through his, like they were playing a father-son game. So, Gronkowski's someone you definitely got to win at the line of scrimmage if you can on that, and I agree with you on Perry Riley. The good news for the Redskins is they get reinforcements back this week, and it's going to be nice to see, with the entire offense back, with the exception of Sean Laval and, of course, RG3. I mean, guess on who you anticipated your starters would be. All of the skill position weapons will be, though. Everyone. And we're going to need...
Well, we're still waiting on confirmation for Deshaun Jackson. He wants to play. But he's still, from estimates, something like a 50-50, 60-40 chance.
You know what?
Which is better than 0%
Yeah,
chance.
I suppose he could have a setback, but in listening to the buzz this week and the talk coming from Deshaun Jackson himself, this is different than in prior weeks. So in my opinion, this is the first time it would truly be a surprise if he doesn't play. We thought he was going to play a couple of weeks ago, but then he tweaked the injury on a Thursday in practice. So that could still happen, but barring a setback, he's going to be on the field, and in my opinion. And so if we have all of those guys, it will be nice to see what we're capable of doing with all those guys on the field.
Yeah, well, and speaking of personnel, you and I and many other reporters and other media guys out there don't believe that the Redskins are going to make any moves with today, Tuesday, November 3rd, being the trade deadline day in the NFL. But crazier things have happened. And, John Keim did write on ESPN that guys like Andre Roberts or even Alfred Morris may be dangled out there just to see if anyone's interested. I don't think it'll happen. I know you don't think it'll happen, but it is worth, just acknowledging that today's the trade deadline and we're recording, the morning of Tuesday, November 3rd, and nothing's happened yet. So if you're listening to this, this afternoon or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whenever, a trade may have happened and there may be someone new on the field for the Redskins on either side of the ball. That's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, I had not thought about it from the perspective of the Redskins being sellers. And I don't know that based on his play, you'd get much for Andre Roberts at this point. I do think I find Alfred Morris an interesting proposition as a trade prospect because it's pretty clear that we're moving towards Matt Jones long term here, and I don't think Alfred Morris is going to be back next year. So I guess it wouldn't be shocking if Alfred Morris was traded, but he's still a very popular player here in DC. Depending on what we get, I don't think it would be a popular move, because I don't think the fan base overall looks at it as a long-term thing. The big story this weekend was the fact that the Cleveland Browns were looking to be big sellers. And, of course, you see Alex Mack dangled out there. Now, Joe Thomas was too, but, with Trent Williams out there, I don't see a lot of value added in bringing even as good a player as Joe Thomas is. But Alex Mack's a different story. The thing is, I think the days of the Redskins giving away draft picks for aging players, even though Alex Mack still has a number of years left in him. I don't think McLuhan is that guy. So I don't think the Redskins, a player-for-player deal is more likely than giving up draft picks. And frankly, watching the way that Scott McLuhan drafts this year, so just the one-year sample we have with Washington, I know he's had some questionable years in the past, but overall the results are good. Every single one of those draft picks is valuable to me, and I wouldn't trade any of them.
Yeah, I don't think the Redskins will be trading out any draft picks. I think if the Redskins are going to be involved in a trade today, and again, I don't think they will be, I think it'll be as a seller. We will be selling a guy like Alfred Morris. And you know what? Just for fun, let's go through some teams that we think Alfred Morris may end up on in a trade if some sort of crazy, unlikely trade did eventuate. Because realistically, there's a couple of landing spots that would be quite interesting for Alfred Morris. For my money, you're looking at Houston,
right,
Indianapolis, Kansas City, Chicago, which I think could be a really interesting landing spot for him, or San Francisco.
Yeah, a lot of those teams a couple of those teams you mentioned have guys in place that are dinged right now. I mean, Chicago's got Matt Forte, and San Francisco. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now.
Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, Carlos Hyde. I think those are guys that long term they're looking to be the guy there. Indianapolis is an intriguing prospect because Frank Gore, at this stage of his career, he's not getting a lot of carries in any game. Alfred Morris is a guy that's coming into his prime. I think Indianapolis would actually be an intriguing possibility for Alfred Morris. The other places, I mean, I see you can obviously eliminate any of the division teams, even if they needed him, which in several cases they don't. But I think that Indianapolis, of the ones you mentioned, is the most intriguing prospect for me because that would be good for Alfred. That's a system that would be good for Alfred, and I don't know what we'd get back from Indianapolis, but I find that the most intriguing of the places you mentioned.
I think Chicago is more intriguing than you think. I think Matt Forte is not long for Chicago's rosters. He's getting on in age, and he's been dinged up a bit now, and I think the Bears may look for a new workhorse. So yeah, I mean, again, neither of us think these trades are unlikely. These are just sort of exercises for fun. We're talking about fun, but we're also talking about someone's career, someone's life. And Alfred Morris, you've met him, I've met him. He's, genuinely perhaps the nicest NFL player I've ever met.
Yeah.
He's humble and he's a great dude. So we do, part of this exercise and part of thinking about this is because we want him to have a job. You and I both think that he may not be part of the Redskins' future plans. As you said, Matt Jones seems to be the thinking for the Redskins going forward.
Yeah, and the thing is that if Alfred Morris is left on the roster, in my opinion, there will be a game at this point this year that we win significantly because of him. I obviously it's unfortunate that he hasn't been the 1,600-yard back we saw in his rookie year since then, but it's not like he's been a disappointment. He had 1,200 and some yards his second year, over 1,000 his third year. So he's been a good running back the entire time he's been here. And at some point, there's going to be a game this year where he's going to go for 125, 130 yards. He's going to, help us control the clock, and we're going to win the game, and he's going to be, the 3 in the 3-2-1, whichever one of us gets to give it at that point. So that's why, a lot of people, and he's just a very humble, popular guy. I would not, from a personal point of view, like you mentioned, be happy to see him go. But realistically, I can read the tea leaves. Alfred Morris is not long for the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, moving on. Let's jump into an exciting thing for you. You mentioned it at the top of the show. You get to do the 3-2-1 game MVP votes from the Tampa Bay Bucks game, and this is the first time you've gotten to do these votes after a win. Because for anyone who doesn't listen to every episode of this podcast, we rotate who gets to do the game votes each week, just out of a coincidence. Mark did them week 1, a loss. I did them week 2, a win, and so forth, so on and so forth. And now Mark gets to do his first winning votes.
Right. So
Mark, without further ado, please share with us your thoughts about who you thought were the 3 Redskin MVPs from the come-from-behind win.
Well, real quick, one thing I did forget to do earlier before I do the 3-2-1, I'm going to jump in and give credit to a Twitter follower, someone who I believe listens to the podcast. His name is @CoachHater. Okay, when the Redskins were down 24-0 against the Buccaneers this past week, he actually seriously put out there on Twitter that the Redskins were going to come back and win the game. I openly mocked him on Twitter, and when they came back and won, I told him, look, I'm going to give you a shout-out on the podcast. So there, that's done to @CoachHater on Twitter. I believe so. I'll just throw that out there. The 3 for me is easy this week. It's Kirk Cousins. 33 for 40, and several of the 7 incompletions were drops. Okay, you had you had by my count at least 3 drops in that game. Now every quarterback has that, but 33 for 40 with 3 touchdowns, and he ran for the 4th touchdown. I believe what you saw on Sunday was the ceiling for Kirk Cousins. I don't know that he's capable of playing much better than that. Now maybe he'll surprise me, and he will, but that was just a fantastic performance by him, and he absolutely does. I can't think of anyone on the team that was more responsible for the win that week than Kirk Cousins. So I'm going to give him the 3. The 2 is also for me easy. It's Jordan Reed, and just show what a difference that guy makes when he's on the field. And it's it's just a shame that he can't stay, and probably never will be a guy that stays healthy for 16 games. It's just too bad, because when he's out there, you just Chad, and I don't want to digress too far on this, but let's take, family show, so let's look at it this way. You go on a diet and you start drinking diet soda, and after a while you think, this isn't so bad. I can deal with this. I can live with diet soda as opposed to regular soda. But then you drink a regular soda, you're like, wow, this is so good. I forget how good this is. Okay, that's what Jordan Reed is. Jordan Reed's injured. He's out of the game. Hey, Derek Carrier's making some nice plays. Maybe we can live without Jordan Reed for a little bit. And then Jordan Reed comes back and you realize, wow, that guy's really good. Okay, so you always want Jordan Reed out there, and he is without question the biggest difference maker on offense for the team. Yes, bigger than Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson will make some big plays down the field during the season, but literally on every third down, Jordan Reed is a matchup nightmare, and he is, if he doesn't play this week, even as well as Kirk Cousins played, the Redskins don't win that game. Okay? So he is my 2. The one I'm going to have to give, even though the guy had a tough day, and he's been mentioned before, in fact, he was on the prior game, I'm going to give Bashaud Breeland the 1, simply for the rundown of Doug Martin that saved the game. All right. And I was thinking through, he got beat a lot by Mike Evans in that game. Most of the time he was draped on Evans, and Jameis Winston just gave better throws than I thought Jameis Winston was capable of at this point in his career. But so I'm going to give it to Breland because no one else really stood out to me as someone that would be a 3-2-1 type of player. So for him saving the game, I think that's worthy of the one.
Excellent. Well, because we are at the halfway point of the season, I guess, after the bye, we're going to do a little bit of an update for the leaderboard as well. We don't usually give the leaderboard on the podcast, but you can find it on the website, redskinscapitalconnection.com. So it is on just the main page, the front page there on the right-hand side of the homepage. So now, following your votes, the leaderboard looks like this. So Bashard Breland is the leader on 7 votes.
Shocking.
Keenan Robinson and Jordan Reed are tied in second place on 4 votes. Jamison Crowder, Alfred Morris, Matt Jones, and now Kirk Cousins with his first votes. Then all tied on 3 votes. Dustin Hopkins, Brandon Scherf, and Sean Laval on 2 votes. And Jason Hatcher, Ryan Kerrigan, and Corey Lichtensteiger have each received a single vote. Any thoughts about the leaderboard there? I thought it was interesting that this was the first time Kirk Cousins has made the votes, and I think it's fair. I don't think he's missed votes in any games. I mean, he might have been a little bit unlucky in that Philadelphia Eagles game, but, from memory that we had some big games from different guys in that game as well. So
yeah, I don't remember who specifically the 3-2-1 was in that Philly game, but he was not in the Philly game what he was in the Tampa game. He had the big 90-yard drive in that game, and certainly I would imagine Jordan Reed was probably named, or no, Pierre Garçon. Pierre Garçon was actually had to be named at some point in that game. I would think for the winning touchdown and whatnot, but I can't remember. But I think it's fair that this is the first time that Kirk Cousins has gotten votes. I can't think of a single game in which I would say, yeah, absolutely, he was one of the top 3 guys on the field for the Redskins. So, but overall, Bashard Breland is the leader, should shock no one.
No, I agree. I do find it interesting how much of a spread of vote getters there have been, and I feel like you and I are both pretty unbiased. We don't have any favorite players or anything like that. So I'm not sure if it's a good thing that different players are getting votes, or if it's a bad thing that we don't have, 1 or 2 standouts. I don't know.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I mean, obviously, if you want to get a true, I guess, leaderboard, because right now we're talking about 7 games and 3 guys named each week, so that's 20 at a maximum 21 guys that can get votes. You'd probably have to have like a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, to really get a probably a more accurate sampling of the data, so to speak. And I don't want to stat geek anyone at this point, but I'm not overly stunned that there's a spread, because the Redskins have been an inconsistent team this year, which means they're going to get contributions from different people at different times. I'm disappointed Ryan Kerrigan hasn't been named more than he has, and I know he didn't have much of a training camp, or at least he didn't get to play much in the preseason games. To me, and he hasn't been bad this year, but I would say he probably falls more into the disappointment category than anyone else, and he still can rebound from that. But I really was expecting more from him this season. So, but no, I first of all, I didn't know you were keeping a leaderboard. I thought it's something we were doing every week. I probably should visit the website more often. But
please,
I absolutely need to get hits on that sucker. I do go on and check it out from time to time, and I'm planning on giving you a second article just to put that out there. I don't want to tease that too much, but I've got something I'm working on right now that I will get to you. So anyhow, no, I mean, I think that I think that it's not shocking that there would be a spread of votes at this point.
Excellent. Well, lots covered in this week's episode coming out of the bye. I think we've covered all our bases there, Mark. I don't think we've left anything on the field there.
Well, you and I, as Redskin fans, could probably talk about it all day, but I think we've hit the high points, and certainly having Chris Wesseling on there, it's fantastic. And there are podcasts, the Redskins, just sprouting up everywhere nowadays, but this is the best one, so you definitely want to be checking out Redskin Capital Connection every week.
Yeah, look, we've been here around. We're not new to this at all, and I think we're putting out a quality product every week. But hey, we love hearing feedback. So if you've made it all the way through to the end of this podcast and you're listening to me right now, and you've got thoughts about how we can do our job better, please get in touch with us on Twitter. I'm at Chad Ryan RCC. No, sorry, at Chadwico RCC. But I did change my username recently from my nickname to my real name, Chad Ryan. So that caused a couple of people to do a bit of a double take. Mark is at Redskins Review. We both, love interacting with our listeners on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to get I do get feedback on the podcast on Twitter, so keep that up. Let me know what you think. Hey, tell me if you think I'm way off base, or tell me if you think I'm doing a great job. Same with Chad. We love to get your feedback, and we do listen to your feedback and adapt it to the podcast to try and make it better.
Absolutely. Next week, we're probably going to do another, Twitter Q&A. So start thinking about the questions that you want us to answer, and we'll get to those. So we'll put a call out on Twitter later in the week, probably on Thursday for questions for Tuesday's podcast. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that does it for this week's episode. Coming out of the bye, we're basically at the halfway point. Technically, Wednesday midday will be the exact halfway point of the NFL 2015 season. It's gone so fast.
Oh,
Mark.
you're depressing me. We're starting to roll downhill.
Yeah, nobody likes that because the waiting for Redskins season is far too long. But you know what? We're in the Redskins season now. Let's enjoy it while it's here. Even though we've got a tough matchup against the New England Patriots this week. Regardless of what happens at that game, we'll be back next Tuesday to talk about it. So make sure you listen out for that. But this week, good show.
Absolutely.
Good show, Mark.
Opportunity for greatness this week. Let's try and grab it, Redskins.
Absolutely. So thanks for tuning in. My name is Chad. My co-host is Mark. We're at RedskinsCapitalConnection.com. Always check out the website. This week we've got a bunch of stuff going up. But yeah, as always, thanks for listening, Redskins fans.